city. Everyone congratulated him. His parents were proud. His friends invite him. But something felt off. He told himself he should be grateful, that this was what success looked like. Yet every morning as he put on his suit and walked into that towering glass building, a quiet frustration settled in his chest. The days turned into a blur of meetings, emails, and deadlines. He watched his coworkers thrive, seemingly full of passion and ambition, while he felt like he was just going through the motions. He started questioning everything. Was this really what he wanted? Or was this just another thing he did because it was expected of him? One evening, after another exhausting day, Jake found himself scrolling through social media, as he often did. But instead of feeling entertained or inspired, he felt drained. Post after post showed people achieving things, traveling to exotic places, getting promotions, and announcing big life events. It felt like a never-ending cycle of comparison. No matter what he accomplished, someone was always doing something bigger, better, faster. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, a single thought hit him. I don't even know who I am without all these outside influences. It was a terrifying realization. He had spent so much time looking outward that he had never truly looked inward. Who was he when he wasn't chasing approval? What did he actually want? The thought unsettled him. He wanted to ignore it, to push it away, but it clung to him. Over the next few weeks, he started noticing things he had never paid attention to before. The way he filled his time with distractions. The way he avoided silence, afraid of what he might hear in his own thoughts. The way he felt restless, always searching for something external to make him feel whole. One day, as he sat in yet another meeting, staring at a spreadsheet that meant nothing to him, something inside him cracked. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was enough. He knew he couldn't keep living this way. He needed to make a change, but he had no idea where to start. So he did something simple. That evening, instead of scrolling through his phone, he sat alone in his apartment with a notebook and a pen. He wrote one question at the top of the page. What do I actually want? At first, his mind went blank. Then a wave of confusion hit him. He had spent years chasing things without ever questioning if he truly wanted them. It was uncomfortable, even frustrating, but he kept writing. Little by little, the answers started to come, not in a sudden burst, but in small, honest thoughts. He realized he missed painting, something he hadn't done since high school. He realized he loved quiet mornings, yet he had built a life that never allowed for them. He realized that half of the things he pursued weren't even his dreams. They were expectations handed to him by society, family, and friends. That night was the beginning. He didn't have all the answers, but for the first time, he felt like he was asking the right questions. As the days passed, he started making small changes. He woke up a little earlier to have time for himself before work. He started journaling, even if it was just a few sentences a day. He spent less time on social media and more time in silence, learning to sit with his own thoughts. But the biggest challenge came when he started pulling away from things that no longer felt right. His friends noticed. Some didn't understand why he wasn't as interested in the same conversations or why he didn't seem as invested in chasing the same external goals. They questioned him, teased him, even made him feel like he was being ridiculous. There was a moment when he almost caved, almost convinced himself that maybe he was overthinking, that maybe he should just go back to the way things were. But then he remembered the emptiness he had felt before, the feeling of being lost in a life that didn't truly belong to him. So he kept going. The more he focused on himself, the more he started to change in ways he never expected. He realized that he had spent so much time worrying about what others thought that he never even considered his own happiness. He had been living in a constant state of comparison, always feeling behind, always feeling like he needed to catch up. But now he was learning something powerful, something most people never truly understand. Asterisk focusing on yourself is not selfish. It's necessary asterisk. Because when you stop chasing what doesn't belong to you, you create space for what actually does. When you stop looking outward for validation, you find an inner confidence that no one can take away. When you stop living for others, you finally start living for yourself. And that's where the real transformation begins. But the journey wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, of loneliness, of questioning whether he was making the right choices. And just when he thought he was starting to figure things out, life threw something unexpected his way, something that tested everything he had been working toward. Something that would force him to face the biggest question of all. Asterisk, was he truly ready to put himself first, no matter the cost asterisk? The answer would change everything. Jake thought he was making progress. He was finally listening to himself, shutting out the noise, and making choices that felt real. He wasn't chasing approval anymore, at least that's what he believed. But life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. Just when he was starting to feel a sense of clarity, something happened that shook everything he had been working toward. It started with a simple message. An old friend from college reached out, one of those people Jake had always admired, someone who had seemingly figured out life. The message was casual at first, but then came the invitation. Asterisk, we're starting something big. A few of us are putting together a new project, something that could change everything. We want you in. Asterisk. For a moment, Jake felt a rush of excitement. This was the kind of opportunity most people would kill for. It was exclusive, it was ambitious, and it promised success. But as he read the details, something inside him hesitated. The project had nothing to do with the life he was trying to build for himself. It was high stakes, high pressure, and demanded complete commitment. It was everything he had been trying to walk away from, yet it was tempting. The old Jake would have jumped at the chance without thinking. He would have seen it as a way to prove himself, to feel important, to show the world that he was asterisk going places asterisk, but now, a quiet voice inside him asked a different question. Asterisk, do you really want this? Or do you just want the validation that comes with it asterisk? He tried to shake the doubt. He told himself he could make it work, that maybe he could do both, pursue this opportunity while still staying true to himself. But deep down, he knew better. Some choices change everything. And once you say yes to the wrong thing, it's hard to turn back. The pressure mounted. His friends pushed him. This is huge, they told him. You can't just walk away from something like this. His parents, still clinging to their definition of success, were thrilled at the idea. Even strangers, people who barely knew him, seemed to nod in approval when he talked about it. It would have been so easy to say yes. But something felt off. Jake found himself awake at night, staring at the ceiling, feeling that same heaviness he thought he had left behind. He had spent months trying to break free from this cycle of chasing external validation. Yet here he was, being pulled back into it. He had told himself he was making progress, but was he really? Or had he just been waiting for the next thing to prove his worth? The breaking point came when he was sitting across from his best friend, Noah, the one person who had seen him through all the phases of his life. Noah was different from the rest. He didn't care about status or success. He cared about asterisk truth asterisk. So are you doing it? Noah asked, watching Jake closely. I don't know, Jake admitted. It's a huge opportunity. It could change everything. Noah didn't react the way others had. He didn't cheer or congratulate him. Instead, he leaned forward and asked one simple question. But will it change asterisk you asterisk? Jake felt his stomach drop. He had spent so much time thinking about how this opportunity would change his career, his reputation, his future. But he hadn't thought about what it would do to asterisk him asterisk. Would it pull him back into the life he had been trying to escape? Would it make him forget the lessons he had learned? Would it make him lose himself all over again? The realization hit hard. This wasn't just a decision about a job or a project. This was a decision about who he was becoming. And if he wasn't careful, he was about to trade his newfound clarity for the same old cycle he had been trying to break free from. But the hardest part wasn't realizing the truth. It was acting on it. Because saying no meant disappointing people. It meant losing connections, burning bridges, and walking away from something that looked asterisk perfect asterisk on the surface. It meant accepting that success wasn't about impressing others. It was about being at peace with yourself. And peace doesn't come from chasing what isn't meant for you. Jake took a deep breath, staring at the message on his phone. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. His heart pounded. And then finally, he made his choice. But just as he thought the hardest part was over, life threw him one final curveball, one that would test him in ways he never saw coming. Because sometimes the biggest challenges aren't the ones we expect. They're the ones that come when we think we've already won. Jake took a deep breath and typed out his response. His fingers trembled as he hit send. Asterisky appreciate the opportunity, but this isn't the right path for me asterisk. The moment the message disappeared from his screen, a weight lifted from his chest, but a new kind of tension settled in. He had made his choice, but now came the consequences. The replies came in quickly. Some were understanding, but most weren't. Asterisk, are you crazy? You're throwing away your future asterisk asterisk. You'll regret this asterisk asterisk. You'll never get another chance like this asterisk. The word stung, but Jake held his ground. He had spent years letting others decide his worth. That ended today. But just as he started feeling certain about his decision, life threw him one final test. A few days later, he got a call from his boss. It wasn't a normal check-in. There was something off about the tone. "Jake, we need to talk," his boss said, voice firm but unreadable. When Jake walked into the office the next morning, he could feel it in the air. Something had shifted. The higher-ups had heard about his decision to turn down the big project. Word had spread fast. It wasn't just his friends who thought he had made a mistake. His company did too. "We need people who are ambitious, who are willing to take risks," his boss said, looking at him with careful disappointment. "Are you sure this is the right place for you?" Jake felt his stomach twist. He knew what was happening. They weren't firing him outright, but they were making it clear he wasn't seen the same way anymore. He wasn't the golden employee, the rising star. He was replaceable. For a split second, panic surged through him. Had he really messed up? Had he let go of something good just to chase some vague idea of personal growth? What if everyone else was right? But then another thought pushed through the noise. If staying meant sacrificing himself again, was it really worth it? He met his boss's gaze, and for the first time in his life, he didn't feel the need to prove himself. He wasn't chasing validation anymore. He was chasing something real. "You're right," Jake said slowly. "Maybe this isn't the right place for me." His boss blinked, taken aback. The answer wasn't what they expected. Neither was what Jake did next. He walked out. Not just from the meeting. Not just from the job. He walked out of the life he had built for all the wrong reasons. For the first time in years, he had no plan. No next step. No perfect answer. But for the first time in years, he asterisk wasn't afraid asterisk. He didn't know exactly what his future looked like. But he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't going to spend another second living for anyone but himself. And just when he thought the story had reached its end, life gave him one last surprise. As he was packing up his desk, his phone buzzed. A message. It wasn't from his boss. It wasn't from his friends. It was from someone he hadn't spoken to in years. Someone who had once known him before he lost himself. Asterisk saw what you did. Proud of you. Let's talk. I think I have something you'll want to hear. Asterisk. Jake stared at the screen, heart pounding. Maybe walking away wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning. Jake sat there for a moment, staring at the message on his phone. His heart was still racing from everything that had just happened. He had walked away from his job, from the life he thought he was supposed to live. And now, out of nowhere, someone from his past had reached out. It felt too perfectly timed to be a coincidence. He hesitated before replying. Asterisk, what if this was just another distraction? Another thing that pulled him away from what he was trying to build asterisk, but deep down, something told him this was different. So he took a breath and typed back. Asterisk, let's talk. Asterisk. The next day, he met up with the person behind the message, Liam. They had been close once, back in high school, before life pulled them in different directions. Liam had always been different from the others. He never cared about status or impressing people. He just followed what felt right, and somehow that had led him to a life that actually asterisk made sense asterisk. Jake hadn't seen him in years, but as soon as they sat down, it felt like no time had passed. I saw what you did, Liam said, leaning back in his chair. That takes guts. Jake let out a dry laugh. It takes something. I don't know if it's guts or just complete insanity. Liam grinned. Maybe both. He took a sip of his coffee before leaning forward. But I think you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I think I might have something for you. Jake frowned. What do you mean? Liam pulled out his phone and slid it across the table. On a screen was a project, something completely different from the corporate world Jake had just walked away from. It wasn't about status or power. It was about creating something meaningful. We've been working on this for a while, Liam explained. It's not flashy. It's not going to make anyone rich overnight. But at asterisk matters asterisk, we're building something real. And I think you'd be a perfect fit. Jake stared at the screen. It wasn't what he had expected. It wasn't what his past self would have considered successful. But as he read through the details, something inside him clicked. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he was chasing something just to prove himself. He felt like he was asterisk aligning asterisk with something real. And that's when he knew. This was the beginning of something new. It wasn't going to be easy. He had no guarantees, no roadmap, no safety net. But for the first time, that didn't scare him. Because he had finally learned the most important lesson. Asterisk, when you stop living for others, you start living for yourself asterisk. Over the next few months, Jake threw himself into the project. He wasn't chasing titles or validation anymore. He was building something with people who actually cared, people who weren't caught up in the game of appearances. And as he worked, something changed. The restless feeling he had carried for years, the constant anxiety of never being enough, started to fade. He no longer felt the need to compare himself to others. He no longer needed to prove anything. He was simply asterisk doing asterisk, creating, learning, growing. And then one day, he woke up and realized something incredible. He was happy. Not in the way he used to chase happiness, through achievements or validation. This was different. This was a quiet, steady kind of happiness. The kind that comes from knowing you are exactly where you're supposed to be. One evening, as he sat on his balcony watching the sunset, he thought back to the version of himself from a year ago, the one who was trapped in a life that didn't feel like his own. He wished he could tell that version of himself something. Asterisk, you don't have to be who the world expects you to be. You just have to be real. Be honest. Be you. And everything else will fall into place, asterisk. But maybe he didn't need to tell his past self that. Maybe, deep down, he had always known. He had just needed the courage to listen. And now, finally, he had. The journey wasn't over. There would still be challenges, still be doubts, still be moments of uncertainty. But Jake wasn't afraid of that anymore. Because now he knew that as long as he stayed true to himself, he would always find his way. And that was the real secret power of focusing on yourself.